Haruka is a shy, antisocial loser who gets Isekaid to another world with his entire class. However, everything changes when he's the only one that gets a cheat skill granting him infinite luck. Now all the baddies won't leave him alone. Everything starts with Haruka sitting by himself in class because he can't stand talking to his overbearing classmates. All of a sudden, a magic circle appears on the floor to yeet everyone into an isekai, and everyone enters in panic mode. Haruka seems cool with everything because he's read about something like this in a manga. But on second thought, he tries to escape the class because he thinks surviving in another world is a lot of stress. Since the doors won't open, Haruka makes his way into the ceiling, thinking he's escaped the magic circle. Unfortunately, it catches up to him and throws him into an astral plane where he meets one of the anime gods. The old dude yells at Haruka for arriving late, and then spawns a library of magical skills for Haruka to pick from. Haruka goes through it, and realizes his mates have already chosen the cool skills and left scrums for him. He gets frustrated and crashes out at the god because the skills won't do him any good in the new world. With all his yelling, the old man gets fed up with him, so he blesses Haruka with all the remaining trash skills, and then teleports him to the new world. Over there, Haruka finds that he has a magical bag that can carry infinite items, and inside, he finds an outfit that'll help him fit perfectly into this world. He then checks his status and realizes that only his luck skill is maxed out, while everything else is stuck at level 1. Afterward, he heads off to find food and prepare a place he can call home. On the way, he uses his appraisal skill to loot veggies that'll help him level up fast. After that, he finds a cave somewhere in the woods and figures that he could make it his home. The following morning, he heads out to gather more supplies and tighten security around his new home to prevent monsters. While he's at it, he finds 2 level goblins in the woods and is frightened because he'll have to fight them. Since both goblins are low levels, he enchants his staff with magic and lands a surprise attack on them, which easily takes them out. That evening, after he returns to his cave, he realizes that he's now level 2 due to the battle. So for the next few days, he slays goblins to increase his stats and keeps building his dream house. However, Haruka gets fed up with having mushrooms for breakfast, so he heads out hunting for meat and finds an Easter bunny. So he runs at full pace to catch it. When he finally does, his perception skill kicks in, and he realizes he isn't alone in these woods. Turns out, it's his classmates from his previous world, so he panics because he wants nothing to do with them. However, when he sees Toka, his female class rep, he battles with making an appearance because he has a crush on her. But he changes his mind because this loner lifestyle is epic, and he doesn't want to give it up. On the other hand, the class bullies start closing in on his position, so he's forced to hide behind a shrub. In doing this, he makes a sound that attracts Haru, the leader of the bullies, who checks the bush to find what made the sound. Since Haruka desperately doesn't want to get caught, he lets go of his Easter bunny, which fools Haru into thinking that it made the sound earlier. Once Haru leaves with his goons, Haruka tails them and eavesdrops on their conversation, hoping to get useful intel. Turns out, Haru is talking about the girls in this isekai who have grown wonderful watermelons ready for harvest, and his friends also want in on that harvest. Hearing this, Haruka realizes these goons are just thirsting for some action, but he's assured that the girls are safe because Toka is a no-nonsense class rep. After that, Haruka realizes that Haru has captured a nerd named Tanaka and is now using him as a low-budget chat GPT to know the skills he'll need to crack the girls. Despite hearing this, Haruka minds his business and returns to his cave, only to realize that his loner level has increased. He figures it's because he turned his back on his course mates, but doesn't think too much of it and decides to upgrade his home. The following night, Haruka struggles to sleep because of the noise he's hearing outside. At first, he thinks it's the pack of bullies, but when he heads out, he discovers that his nerdy classmates are being attacked by goblins. He runs an appraisal on them and learns that they are all equipped with good skills, and starts cussing himself because he's stuck with trash skills. Before the Isekai incident, Haruka's class was filled with different kinds of people, and they formed groups according to their likes, but Haruka wasn't in any of them. Presently, he recalls this and wonders how he survived in the school, and also decides to leave because he thinks the nerds will easily fend off the goblins. Just as he's about to walk away, he notices another pack of goblins trying to ambush the nerdy group and is forced to defend them. When he's done, the nerds are shocked to see him, and they begin glazing him for saving their pathetic lives. A bit later, Haruka leads the way to his cave, and the nerds marvel at how comfy the place is. While they settle in, Haruka asks about his other classmates, only for the nerds to reveal that they are on the run. About a week ago, when they first arrived in this world, they came under attack by goblins, and everyone except the nerds had their ship together. With the new skills they were just blessed with, the nerds teamed up and defeated the goblins until none were left. After that, Toka rallied everyone and divided them into groups to set up camp, get supplies, and other essentials that would help them survive in this world. Her plan worked for a while, and things went smoothly until the gal group decided they were doing no chores. They walked out on Toka when she tried talking to them, and this made the other groups abandon their responsibilities. As the class coalition fell, only the nerds stood by Toka to help with basic chores while their mates lay down like all your entitled girlfriends who can't cook or shut up. One day, a pack of goblins attacked the camp, so the nerds ganged up to defeat them. After the fight, they figured they should upgrade their skills so they could stand up to the bully group, who had 6 skills. A few days passed, and the nerds kept a keen eye on the bully group and noticed that they were trying to level up too. They got scared when they overheard Haru talking about his plans of smashing all the girls, so they hurried and reported their findings to Toka. Toka got the news and settled on leveling up her skills to protect herself. One night, while she was wandering in the woods, Haru and his goons saw her as an easy target and wanted to feast, but Toka had other plans for them. With her skill, she rendered them unconscious, allowing the nerds to use their powers to seal their charm and puppeteer skills. From there, the bullies were exposed to the other students, so they were forcefully kicked out of the camp. As they left, peace lasted in the camp for a few days until one evening when Haru and his group returned with weapons to wreck the place. Since the students were taken by surprise and had no time to react, their camp was torched to the ground. Consequently, the remaining students blamed everything on the nerds, saying they were the ones who started a fight with the bullies. Although Toka stepped in to defend them, no one listened to her, so the nerds had to leave the camp. In the present, Haruka finishes listening to this story and feels bad for the nerds, so he promises to treat them to fried mushrooms for dinner. About 2 days later, the nerds are set to leave Haruka's house in search of the nearest town, and they try to convince Haruka to join them. Although Haruka knows that traveling with them will be fun, he declines because he thinks his trash skills will hold them back. As the nerds leave, Haruka heads off in search of his other classmates, but he encounters a kobold on the way and defeats it easily. At night, he reaches the students' camp but realizes that no single soul is there. He then activates his enemy detection skill and traces recent footprints that lead into the woods, only to find the gal group there. Knowing that they are a lot to deal with, Haruka runs away to avoid them, but they start chasing him. Mid-chase, the gal leader, Shima, politely begs Haruka for help, and this shocks the dude because the girls aren't nice at all. Haruka stops and asks what they want, so Shima reveals that she's looking for the nerd group to apologize for being harsh to them. The girls admit they can't defend themselves against monsters, and the nerds were the only people keeping them alive. While in tears, they beg Haruka to teach them everything they'll need to survive in this world, promising to repent. Seeing them beg like this makes it hard for Haruka to refuse their request, and that's how he mistakenly activates his subjugation skill, turning all of them into his pets. Although this has been part of his wild dreams, he becomes scared because if Toka finds out, she'll cook him. He thinks hard about how to cancel the subjugation thing, and doesn't even notice when Toka shows up and tries talking to him. It takes some yelling for Haruka to notice that she's there, and the sudden realization shocks him. Turns out, Toka is here with her own group of girls, and they look exhausted from all that walking. Looking forward, Toka notices the gal group acting weird and asks Haruka what's up with them. Immediately, Haruka's vocal cords go mute, and the dude starts thinking of the best way to explain himself. He finally opens up, so Toka crashes out on him, thinking he wanted to ditty them day and night. The other girls feel this way, so Haruka gets uncomfortable and tries to run home, but Toka stops him. She then shakes the subjugation effect off Shima and the gals, and asks to hear their side of the story. When she's done, she realizes that Haruka is innocent, and even thanks him for agreeing to help the girls out. After that, Haruka says he's going home, but this puzzles Toka, who finds it weird that he has a fully furnished apartment already. All the other girls become excited to check the place out, and after Haruka reveals that it can contain lots of people, Toka swallows her pride and begs him to let the girls spend the night at his place. The request makes Haruka realize that life is short, and this opportunity is gold, so he agrees. After a long walk, Haruka and the girls finally arrive at the house. Looking around, the girls are impressed by the house's well-decorated rooms, so they start running around to explore the place. After that, Haruka points them to the bathroom to freshen up, and they all let loose and start exposing their plots. But the marvelous view cooks what's left of Haruka's degenerate brain. At night, Haruka gets hit with the pre-burst clarity, so he decides to sleep in a tent because he can't handle being around all those girls. Just then, Toka arrives and personally thanks him for all the help, but she feels bad because she doesn't think she's leading her mates well. To this, Haruka replies that she made a good call by making the girls spend the night at his place. Toka compares herself to the nerd group who can easily take out monsters, so Haruka explains that the nerds are just built different, and she can be special in her own way. Toka feels better after hearing this and thanks Haruka for the pep talk before walking off to sleep. In Toka's absence, Haruka starts fantasizing about the girls lying in his bed and realizes that if he enters his bedroom tonight, he'll be a father of 25 inches 9 months, so he decides to stay put. The following morning, he wakes up and realizes that something was bound to rise like Trump's tariffs because a girl named Chika is in his tent. Chika crawls up to him and tells him to get up because breakfast is ready. When asked what's for breakfast, she says mushrooms and grilled fish, and Haruka gets fired up. Turns out, he's happy because he's never been able to have fish since he's been in this world. While he digs in, Chika and Toka wonder why he hasn't had fish for that long when he lives in front of a river. Haruka replies that he hasn't been able to catch any fish because they are fast and slimy. He then asks the girls how they caught fish, so a girl named Amame uses her lightning magic to electrocute the river, causing lots of fish to die. Seeing this, Haruka gets an idea and tells the girl to use her skill again. When she doesn't, he wraps her lightning spell in a cube and uses it to catch his first fish. This little trick causes him to earn the level 1 lightning skill, and Toka is left wondering how he did it. Haruka explains that he can get any elemental magic if he wraps it in his magic packing box, and Toka finds this impressive. Later on, Haruka asks Toka if she's decided on what to do next, so she replies that she wants to find the nearest town. She also adds that she'd like to level up before going there, so Haruka decides to help out with that. That afternoon, he rallies the girls for a training exercise and first asks to confirm their level. On average, the girls are level 15 and higher, which scares Haruka because he's barely level 8. He assumes the girls won't need him for anything, but when he notices some kobolds hiding in a bush, he exposes them and tells the girls to defeat them for a test. Seeing the beasts, Chika and the other girls start stretching their muscles to get that blood pumping, and Haruka starts cheering for them, thinking they'll put up a good fight. However, mere seconds into the fight, the girls get folded like toilet paper and get mocked by the kobolds. As the girls recover, Haruka asks what happened, and they start giving excuses left and right to make up for their foolishness. Later on, Chika meets Haruka and thanks him for all the help, emphasizing that he isn't like the bullies who wanted to take advantage of her. She then promises to give him another cooked fish tomorrow morning as a thank you, and Haruka looks forward to it. The following day, Haruka gets his fish as expected, but while he eats, he overhears the girls talking about a revenge match against the kobolds. He gets worried because the girls will get folded again, but is relieved when Toka tells them to train first. After hours of intensive training, the girls arrive at the battlefield raring to fight. The kobolds arrive and start rage baiting them, but when the battle starts, the girls team up and beat the beasts to a pulp. After the match, Toka high-fives her girls for a job well done, and Haruka assumes his work with them is done. While he's thinking about returning to his loner life, Toka appears before him, thanking him for training the girls and also saying that he'll be joining them in the next town. Haruka is left shocked because he never agreed to join her, but she leaves him with no choice. At night, an unidentified student is running in the woods because someone is chasing him. Since it's raining, he slips and falls, so the hooded guy chasing him catches up and chokes him to death. The following day, Haruka is leading the girls out of the woods because the class bullies are after them. On the way, he encounters an orc whose hobby is weight maxing, so he tells the girls to watch him so they'll learn how to fight. As he charges at the orc, he dips at the last second and hides behind a tree, researching the kind of magic he can use against the beast. Unfortunately, the orc sniffs him out, so he's left with no choice but to attack with his stick. After one hit, the orc is knocked out, but the girls are disappointed because they didn't learn anything. As they continue their journey, Haruka finds another orc and decides to defeat it with a fireball, but the girls aren't satisfied. Toka complains that she can't learn anything at this rate because Haruka is too strong. At night, while the girls snack on the dead orc's meat, Haruka checks out a new skill that allows him to see the woods like Google Maps. Just then, he notices movements in the woods and thinks it's the class bullies, but he's relieved when he sees that it's the gym bros. He assumes they are after the girls to get their milk and spread the Alabama 19 virus, but the gym bros deny this and tell Haruka they are here to see him. This makes Haruka think they are now Gabriel's, but when they deny it, he asks them why they are hiding from the girls. One of them says it's because they can't trust anyone. After all, someone has a skill worse than charm, which is the hijack skill, and he's already sure that the class bullies don't have it. Hearing this, Haruka tries scaring them into believing that he has the said skill, but they don't flinch because they feel comfortable with him having such an overpowered skill. After all, he won't do anything bad with it. They then promise to keep an eye on the class bullies and beg Haruka to apologize to the girls on their behalf. As they walk away, Haruka doesn't notice that Toka has been eavesdropping the whole time. The following morning, she meets Haruka and tries to apologize for keeping her skill a secret from him, but Haruka tells her not to worry about it because he already knows she has the hijack skill. When Toka asks how he found out, Haruka tells her he just thought it out. Toka reminds him that the hijack skill takes someone's life in exchange for their skill and asks why he's helping her even as he knows this. Haruka replies that the nerds know about her skill and decided not to seal it because they trusted her with it, and he's also trusting her with it, so he isn't scared of her. These words make Toka turn red, but she's happy that Haruka trusts her. Later that morning, the girls are exhausted from walking, so Haruka comes bearing juice, but they aren't free. One girl says she'll pay him in the bedroom, and Haruka considers it, only for Toka to show up and ruin things for him. A bit later, Haruka tells the girls to wait for him and dashes off to scout the entire forest. On the way, he casts a physical buff on himself, coupled with a weight skill to make himself lighter. With this, he jumps on trees like a monkey on steroids and realizes he can now fly. However, while scouting the forest, he notices he's descending and falls to the ground. The following day, it's business as usual as Haruka leads the girls in the woods. After encountering multiple orcs, he finally leads the girls out of the woods, and they're all excited. Deep down, Haruka figures he needs to keep his eyes open because they're out in the open and the hills are blocking his view. He then checks his status window and notices that he's gained the airwalk skill, so he tests it out. Seeing Haruka walking in midair, Toka wonders what in the anime god's name is going on, so Haruka tells her he's trying to scout. Looking far, Haruka notices a party of adventurers surrounded by a pack of wolves and informs Toka. Toka insists on helping the adventurers, but Haruka is skeptical because he doesn't know if they are good people. Since he isn't sure of that, he figures he'll check on the party by himself and starts activating a series of skills to help him move. First, he casts the physical buff, then he creates winds, followed by the airwalk skill to help him get to the adventurers fast. Somehow, he finds Toka holding onto his coat and realizes that the wind pulled her in. She yells all the way, so Haruka loses control and crashes right into the adventurers. When the smoke clears, all the monsters are passed out, and the adventurers are wondering what just happened. The leader, Ofter, introduces himself and thanks Haruka for saving his party, which stuns Haruka because he can understand people from this world. Out of curiosity, Haruka asks Ofter why he was attacked, so the man explains that he was on an extermination mission to get rid of the wolves attacking some merchants. After hearing this, Haruka gives Ofter's colleagues some medicinal mushrooms to restore their vitality, and they love it because, to them, it's rare. Soon after, Toka regains consciousness from the fall, and the other girls catch up to her. As they see the female adventurers, they begin flocking around them because they are elves. After that, Ofter guides everyone to the nearest town, called Amui, and the girls are overly excited to begin their new lives. All the while, the class bullies are done leveling up in the woods, and they are ready to track down all the jiggling girls from their world. As they prepare to leave, Tanaka tells Haru to prioritize getting their charm skills unsealed, so Haru figures they'll attack the nerd group first because they are the ones who sealed his skills. Unknown to them, the gym bros are in the woods watching, and they are terrified that the bullies are already making a move. At Amui, Toka and the girls have fun exploring the town, and they all stop by the Adventurers Guild to get registered. As Haruka enters the guild, he notices the scary side eyes the adventurers are giving him and almost wets his pants. A few minutes pass, and he gets summoned to see the guild boss, who looks like he hasn't smiled since birth. Haruka is terrified to meet him but is relieved when the dude thanks him for saving Ofter's party. A bit later, Haruka stops by the guild's appraiser to value all the gems he got from defeating monsters in the woods. When he offloads them, the attendant is shocked and complains that the gems are too much. She then tells him he'll have to come back for his money tomorrow, and Haruka is cool with this. As he leaves, he realizes the girls have already been registered as adventurers, and Shima forces him to get his done. As he proceeds with this, the guild staff tells him he can't register because he isn't up to level 10 yet, and that's the minimum level to register with a party. For him to go solo, he'll have to be level 20 or higher, but this breaks Haruka's heart because he'll be stuck as a NEET for a long time. That evening, Toka leads everyone to a lodging, but Haruka freaks out because each building has a love logo on it and he thinks it's a love hotel. After a good night's sleep, Haruka sits at a restaurant for breakfast and figures he'll go back to the woods because the girls are safe and sound. After his meal, he stops at the guild only to realize that he's getting paid 8 million coins for yesterday's gems, and there's more to come in installments. The guild boss says it's because they don't have more coins on the ground, and Haruka is fine with it. Deep down, he's excited that he's a low-budget Elon Musk, and all the girls are excited because they now have money to shop for everything they need. Sitting in the room, Hijack calls Haruka's attention and recommends a good place for him to spend his money. But Haruka starts thinking it's a place where hot elven baddies give paid massages and happy endings. Unfortunately, Hijack leads him to a creepy shop where special artifacts and weapons are sold. Haruka checks out the place and picks up a cloak that can hide his presence, alongside a glove that can increase his attack power by 7%. He spends the next few hours shopping for magical weapons, and before he knows it, his cart is full. Even so, one magical necklace catches his attention, and he soon learns that it's a combining item, which will allow him to merge multiple magical weapons and use their abilities at once. Haruka realizes this is similar to how he combines his magical skills and opts to buy it, but that's when Toka arrives looking for him. She yells at him for spending so much time outside because it's already late, but this startles Haruka and he accidentally combines almost all the items he buys. The storekeeper starts yelling at him for it, saying that what he got is worth 10 million coins and he should pay up. Thanks to Hijack, the storekeeper agrees to lower the price down to 8 million, and that's how Haruka says goodbye to this Isekai's Forbes list. The following day, Haruka wakes up regretting what happened last night, wishing he could go out of town and earn more gems. However, he can't because outsiders aren't allowed out of town until they become adventurers and get a permit. He also knows that if he tries to sneak out, Toka will catch him and give him an earful of spit. Factoring all these in, he decides to use the magical cloak he bought yesterday to turn invisible and sneak out of town. This idea works for a while as he easily sneaks past Toka and exits his lodging. Just as he's about to jump the town's fence, some girls spot him and ask what he's up to. So Haruka is shocked and ends up crashing to the ground like the stock market. Looking at the girls, he recalls they are the celebs of his class and that one of them is missing. He finds the missing chick, checking out some clothes at an open stall but becomes scared since the girl is a naturist and can go commando at any time. Scared of this happening, Haruka and the other 3 girls dash at full speed to stop the creep chick, and it takes the grace of anime gods for Haruka to convince her to stay clothed. The next morning, Toka and the girls prepare to leave for a quest, so Haruka asks to tag along. Toka refuses because he tried to sneak out yesterday, but Haruka isn't bothered because he plans to sneak out again. Once he confirms the girls are gone, he activates his invisibility cloak, sneaks out of the front gate, and starts celebrating like a psycho because his plan is working. He aims to return to his house in the woods, so he dashes off and even ignores a pack of goblins. However, he stops when he sees a group of bandits attacking a noble chariot. Although he hears a girl crying for help, he decides he'll keep running to the woods, but that's when one of the bandits attacks him. Haruka manages to dodge the attack because he wants no spear penetrating his body. He even tries to explain his predicament to the bandits, but since they refuse to listen, Haruka uses his new staff to roast them with fire. Soon, the bandits recover from Haruka's roast and try to attack him again, but Haruka dodges until they exhaust themselves and pass out. After that, the princess in distress arrives from the chariot and introduces herself as Marielle. She thanks Haruka for defeating the bandits, but wonders if she should be thanking him because the bandits sort of beat themselves. Seeing the 2 brain cell idiot twitch, Haruka figures he's found yet another dimwit. Marielle then asks Haruka for his name and begs him to join her for the rest of her trip because she's scared. She also mentions that she'd like to show her gratitude, and that's all it takes for Haruka to forget that he was going to the woods. While he's escorting Marielle, he reveals that he just left a town with weird inns, and he hates the place because it won't let outsiders go out without a permit. He even roasts the lord of the town, but that's when Marielle starts crying because her father is the lord of the town he's talking about. This revelation makes Haruka realize they are headed back to town, and he starts begging to be freed, but Marielle refuses. All the while, the class gym bros face off against the bullies because they don't want them getting their hands on the girls. But just as they are about to start fighting, the mysterious hooded figure appears out of nowhere and stabs Haru from the back. After Haru dies, the other class bullies try to attack the hooded guy, and they both end up like Haru. Scared for their lives, the class gym bros make a run for it, but the hooded guy still catches up to them. That evening, Haruka is forced to join Marielle at her father's mansion, but while he waits for her to freshen up, he becomes nervous and opts to sneak out. When he gets to the door, Muriel catches him red-handed, but Haruka claims he just wanted some fresh air. Afterward, Haruka is treated to a table full of meat, and the dude wastes no time in unleashing his appetite. Muriel tries to talk to him the whole time, but his ears are on Do Not Disturb, and it pisses her off. She tries to buy his attention by promising lots of coins and a noble identity card that'll let him leave town without issues. At first, Haruka gets excited that he can now leave town, but he continues eating his meal and ignores Muriel even with all that makeup. The following day, Haruka informs his class girls that he was invited to the Lord's Manor last night, but his throat Wi-Fi seizes when he's asked why he got invited. Toka tells him not to leave town, and he agrees to stay where he is. After the girls head out to deal with their quest, he feels relieved to finally have some quiet time and immediately steps outside because he plans to use his new identity card to sneak out of town. He stops by the merchants to buy supplies and leaves behind a note for Toka, explaining that he is going to look for the class gym bros since he is worried about those guys. He then walks up to the town gate, shows his identity card to the guard, and gets approval to leave without any trouble. Once he reaches the woods, he enjoys being alone and thinks this place is perfect for relaxing without anyone bothering him. He considers heading back home, yet an orc suddenly shows up behind him. He takes it down in one hit, but he finds it strange because orcs normally appear much deeper in the forest. Later that day, Haruka finds the gym bros lying there in the woods in terrible condition and first thinks they are already dead, but he quickly realizes they are still breathing. He uses his potions right away to heal them because he does not want them dying in front of him. One of the gym bros wakes up and admits they messed up, then asks if the girls are safe. Haruka tells him the girls are still in town and unharmed, so the gym bros explain that the class bullies are already finished because they ended up getting destroyed by someone else. They reveal the attacker is a math genius, and they believe he set everything up from the start. They also mention that the class rep is his next target because she has the hijack skill. Haruka remembers that this ability allows someone to steal other people's skills by defeating them, and he knows only he and the nerds were aware of this before. He wonders how the gym bros found out about it, so they explain that the attacker kept looking for her specifically. When he could not find her, he beat them badly because he thought they would run back to her for help and lead him straight to her. Instead, they chose to move in the opposite direction to mess up his plan. They then tell Haruka that the only option now is to team up and take this guy down together. Haruka thinks it over and realizes he wants to protect his classmates, so he agrees to help, but makes it clear that he will handle the fight alone. The jocks think he has lost it, yet they see he is serious and respect his decision. They ask if he has a plan, but he simply tells them to return to town, meet Toka, and apologize for acting like idiots. As they leave, Haruka admits to himself that having backup would make things easier, but if they fail against the attacker, then nobody would be left to protect the girls, so he decides that fighting solo is the safer choice. In the meantime, Haruka remembers the warning about the attacker's overpowered weapon skill. He understands that once a weapon skill is activated, the user becomes vulnerable since it cannot be cancelled mid-use, so he decides that he'll create a new skill that can exploit that weakness. Soon after, he runs into a group of goblins and uses his appraisal skill to check their levels. They are twice his level, yet he still attacks and defeats them with ease. Even so, he is not satisfied because he needs stronger enemies if he wants to level up faster. Right then, a goblin king appears, and he sees it as the perfect opportunity. As the monster swings at him, he uses his rapping skill to combine his abilities and launches a counterattack that defeats the goblin king in a single strike. At that moment, he realizes he can create new abilities by combining his so-called trash skills. However, a new monster suddenly appears behind him, and he sees it as a level 50 goblin emperor. He knows the gap between them is huge, since he is only level 9, yet he believes he still has a chance by using his skill combinations. He attacks first and knocks it down, but the creature quickly recovers and starts attacking him. He notices it is also using a weapon skill and eventually spots an opening that allows him to deal some damage. However, the monster instantly heals and blasts him into the trees. For a moment, he feels finished, but when he remembers the condition the jocks were in, he realizes he is still in better shape than they were. That thought pushes him to stand up and keep fighting. After a long struggle, he finally defeats the Goblin Emperor and reaches level 11. In town, the girls notice the gym bros and Toka asks what happened to them. They tell her they are fine, so she immediately asks about Haruka, who they reveal is in the woods, fighting completely on his own. Back in the woods, Tanaka admits he expected the gym bros to lead him straight to Toka, but now realizes they outplayed him, which makes him feel foolish. He then reveals he has been controlling the class bullies from the start. Haruka understands that Tanaka planned everything from the beginning, and Tanaka confirms this by explaining that he used the class bullies to split the class apart. Hearing that, Haruka gets angry and demands to know what happened to their other classmates, so Tanaka casually admits that he has already taken them out. He then states that his next goal is Toka, and looks down on Haruka, calling him a loser who only has useless skills. Haruka responds by saying he will not let Tanaka harm their classmates, explaining that even someone who prefers being alone still has people worth protecting. Tanaka simply tells him to prepare to die. Tanaka immediately activates his abilities, causing the ground beneath them to crack and splinter as he boasts that back in the astral plane, he made sure all remaining skills after he picked his were completely useless. He mocks Haruka, claiming his powers are pathetic compared to his own, and launches rocks at him while activating his tweak ability to disrupt Haruka's mobility. Haruka tries to dodge, but he quickly realizes his body is not responding the way it should, making even simple movements difficult. Tanaka then summons ice spikes from below, yet Haruka manages to evade every single one, which seems to pique Tanaka's curiosity. He asks how long Haruka has been suspicious, and Haruka admits he noticed Tanaka's behavior as soon as he saw him acting unusually close to the late class bullies. Haruka presses Tanaka on when he first conceived his scheme, and Tanaka explains that it began in the White Room once he realized someone had already claimed Hijack. After that, he summons roots that coil around Haruka while simultaneously launching a massive fireball. Confident that the fight is over, Tanaka seems surprised when Haruka begins draining his magic thanks to the absorption properties of the vines. Haruka charges forward to finish the battle quickly, but Tanaka blocks his strike with a blade and remarks that magic being useless is of no concern since he has countless weapons at his disposal. Tanaka immediately launches a relentless assault, continuously swapping weapons to create unpredictable attack patterns that make it difficult for Haruka to defend. Haruka leaps back to evade a strike but still takes a hit and crashes into the ground while Tanaka taunts him, asking if he is ready to surrender. As he observes the fight, Haruka realizes Tanaka is using Copycat to duplicate multiple weapon abilities he stole from their classmates, and he understands that Tanaka plans to use Copycat on the class rep to claim her Hijack skill before eliminating her. Tanaka admits that his ultimate goal is to become unbeatable by collecting everyone's overpowered abilities. He lunges at Haruka, who barely blocks and tries to counter, but Tanaka activates Apparition and vanishes, leaving Haruka momentarily frozen. Believing Haruka has surrendered, Tanaka rushes forward, only for Haruka to reveal that he is faking it, sidestepping the attack with precision. Haruka then questions whether Tanaka can only activate identical skills 3 times, catching him off guard. Confirming his suspicion, Haruka explains he deduced Copycat's limitation by observing that Tanaka never uses the same ability more than twice in a row to preserve his stolen powers. Tanaka scoffs, claiming the flaw is meaningless, since Haruka could never match his weapon techniques. However, Haruka tells him he's already matched his speed. Using that opening, Haruka unleashes a flurry of strikes, forcing Tanaka backward and preparing a finishing move, only for Tanaka to cast a spell mid-fight. Haruka quickly realizes he still has to deal with the cheat abilities Tanaka possesses. Tanaka, furious after taking damage, declares that he has not yet used his strongest skill, claiming that everything else is weak compared to it. He leaps from above, demolishing the terrain beneath them, but Haruka taunts him, asking if that is all he has. Before he can react, Tanaka suddenly reappears behind him and lands his instant death technique, instantly knocking Haruka to the ground. Tanaka mocks him, stating he regrets wasting abilities on someone so weak, but adds that it does not matter because once he obtains Hijack, he will dominate completely. Haruka watches Tanaka leave, certain the fight is over, but unexpectedly, he speaks up, startling Tanaka. Tanaka freezes, shocked that Haruka survived, and demands to know why instant death failed. Haruka calmly explains that his general health ability shielded him from harmful effects, and since instant death qualifies as one, its effectiveness dropped dramatically. He adds that his luck parameter is maxed, making the technique almost impossible to succeed against him. Tanaka presses further, asking why Haruka fell in the first place, and Haruka admits he simply didn't want to embarrass him. Tanaka then questions how Haruka maintained mobility when he had used Tweak to immobilize him. Haruka reveals he activated Puppeteer, a skill that lets him operate like a marionette. This proves that even his supposedly worthless abilities have value. Tanaka grows increasingly frustrated and unleashes a barrage of weapon techniques, but Haruka parries each one while pointing out that Tanaka is exhausting his skill uses recklessly. Tanaka is stunned, believing his calculations were flawless, but Haruka counters that in a fantasy world, unpredictable elements exist, meaning math alone cannot guarantee results. Tanaka reflects on why he pursued this path. Back in their previous world, he found ordinary life tedious and craved excitement, so when the magic circle appeared in their class that day, it was exactly what he had been looking for. He designed his domination plan, believing it was his ticket to thrill and fully committed to achieving it, even if it meant sending his classmates to nirvana. He had expected perfection after eliminating everyone, yet he cannot understand why Haruka and his so-called trash-tier skills are giving him trouble. Tanaka attacks again, but Haruka strips his weapon and moves in for the final strike, only to get impaled, realizing that Tanaka had remotely manipulated the blade. Tanaka presses the assault, claiming his victory is guaranteed mathematically. However, Haruka strikes back, explaining that his Einstein brain is useless if he hasn't trained to improve properly. Tanaka attempts to stab him again, but Haruka counters with his gambit technique, delivering a devastating blow that knocks Tanaka out. Haruka becomes exhausted from the mana drain and barely manages to stand as he's reaching his breaking point. Just as he is about to collapse, the nerds arrive, having gone searching when he did not return to town. They help him out of the forest, noting that everyone was worried because they learned he had been fighting alone. The girls greet him, saying they expected his return, and apologize to the nerds for expelling them from camp, expressing gratitude for saving Haruka. He notices that the entire class has regrouped, and for the first time, he feels they might not need him anymore. Attempting to leave and return to his loner life, he is intercepted by Toka, who admits she had been worried sick. She expresses relief that he survived but warns that the girls plan to lecture him for abandoning town, and together they pull him along to make sure he cannot escape again. The next day, Haruka runs into the nerds and asks if they are heading to the dungeon. They tell him they are hunting for a rare item that would finally make people stop treating them like garbage before leaving. Haruka realizes that he has already reunited with the nerds and has dealt with Tanaka, so he feels it is time to leave town and return to his loner life, which he desperately wants. However, Toka suddenly appears behind him, saying they need to have a chat. Haruka asks if she is about to roast him again, remembering how the girls already chewed him out. She reminds him that she hasn't even given her lecture yet and proceeds to scold him for taking on Tanaka solo, insisting that he shouldn't pull such dangerous stunts. Haruka immediately apologizes, realizing that Tanaka is nothing compared to her wrath. He then admits that he just wants to enjoy his loner life without angering her. He thinks about the item the nerds mentioned, reasoning that if he finds it, nobody would scold him anymore, and decides to hunt for it in the dungeon. Meanwhile, the Lord of Omui is in his office when Marielle shows up and tells him to take a break. He explains that Omui is a frontier town, and the recent spike in monster attacks has devastated the economy, so he must continue working or the town will never prosper. Suddenly, a guard bursts in, reporting that a horde of monsters is approaching. At the same time, Haruka heads toward the dungeon but encounters a group of orcs and decides to take care of them. The guildmaster orders Toka to hunt monsters near the highway, but Marielle interrupts, warning that monsters are about to attack a nearby village that has already been wiped out, so everyone needs to prepare to defend the town. Haruka charges at the orcs, noting that he has never seen them grouped like this before, yet he easily isekais them all. He then faces their leader, a level 37 orc king, and overwhelms it with a devastating combo, sending it crashing to the ground. He wonders why the orcs attacked him as a group but decides not to overthink it and heads toward the dungeon. Using his stealth skill, he slips past the guards like a pro. Although he feels nervous, seeing how many adventurers have been there before, he decides to search for the item that will raise his affinity. He spots a treasure chest, but it is full of junk, and he cannot find the item he needs. He considers asking the merchant in town who sells special items, reasoning that the merchant might know where to locate it. Back at the town gate, the adventurers are waiting, anticipating the monster horde. After a while, the guildmaster begins to wonder if the orcs are even coming. Marielle says they should arrive any moment, and the adventurers ready themselves for battle. Soon, something approaches, but it turns out to be Haruka. He asks what they are doing there, and Toka explains that they gathered to defend the town because a horde of orcs is approaching. Haruka casually mentions that he already took care of them and didn't even consider them a real threat because they were so weak, leaving everyone in disbelief. The girls scold him for putting himself in danger again. Marielle and the guild master thank him for protecting the town but reprimand him for fighting the orcs solo, emphasizing that he could have died. They explain that they are lecturing him to prevent him from doing it again, especially since monster activity has increased and a stampede could happen at any time. Haruka realizes that everyone is keeping their eyes on him and thinks he can never truly enjoy his loner life. Still, he decides that using the favorability item is the only way to achieve his goal, and his determination to find it intensifies. The following day, Haruka visits the soulless-looking merchant who sells special items. Still, the merchant immediately assumes Haruka is about to cause trouble and claims he has nothing to sell. Haruka clarifies that he only wants information about the favorability item. The merchant finally tells him about the pheromone ring and explains that it can be found in a nearby dungeon. Haruka assumes this is the rare item the nerds mentioned, so he asks the merchant where it can be found. The merchant explains that it lies in an unexplored part of the dungeon beyond the 50th floor. He reveals that the dungeon has 100 floors, and each one is guarded by a floor master that must be defeated to go deeper. He also mentions rumors about a powerful being called the Dungeon Emperor. Before Haruka leaves, he advises him to stock up on potions. Haruka agrees, but says he will buy them from the general store instead, which surprises the merchant. The nerds overhear the conversation and inform the girls, who begin questioning why Haruka wants the pheromone ring. They assume he plans to use it to charm everyone, so they decide to stop him together. Meanwhile, Haruka heads toward the dungeon but finds his classmates waiting. Toka asks why he is searching for the pheromone ring, so he denies it and claims he is after the Solomon ring, which lets him talk to animals. His classmates do not believe him, so he runs toward the dungeon with everyone chasing him. Haruka assumes they also want the pheromone ring and runs ahead, but he triggers a trap and falls into a pit. Toka tries to grab him but fails, and he prepares for impact. Just before landing, he uses earth magic to turn the ground into a trampoline and survives. He looks around and thinks he may have reached the bottom. He tries to return using airwalk, but it cannot be used vertically. Checking his skills, he realizes he has gained spatial awareness and trap detection. Using them, he finds a hallway that might lead out, but soon realizes he has reached the 101st floor and worries about a hidden boss. As he moves through the hallway, the heavy miasma makes it hard to breathe. He reaches a door and senses something powerful behind it. When he opens it, he encounters the skeletal figure known as the Dungeon Emperor. Using appraisal, he learns it is level 100. Elsewhere, his classmates search for him and reach the 47th floor without success. They find a teleport gate, and Toka asks if it leads back to the entrance. A nerd explains it only appears after clearing a floor, making them doubt Haruka used it. He reminds them that this is the oldest great dungeon, where rumors say the Dungeon Emperor rules the lowest level. The girls consider turning back since they struggle against level 40 monsters, but one reminds them that Haruka has saved them before. The group agrees to keep searching. On the 101st floor, Haruka notices the Dungeon Emperor's stats are hidden but knows it is extremely strong. Since ranged attacks will not work, he closes the distance and attacks at high speed. The skeletal figure blocks the strike with ease, proving it can match him. Still, Haruka refuses to back down, believing he must overcome its speed to defeat it. Meanwhile, the Lord of Omui looks out over the town from his window while Marielle notices dark clouds forming around the dungeon, which makes her think dangerous monsters are about to appear. He tells her to alert the Adventurers Guild right away and ensure they are ready if things go wrong. Inside the dungeon, Haruka continues trying to defeat the Dungeon Emperor by relying on his speed, yet every attack gets blocked. He realizes he needs to move even faster and launches a series of relentless strikes. Suddenly, he gets a strange vision of himself being stabbed, which forces him to retreat. He figures out that while pushing his limits, his contact lens unlocks a new ability that allows him to predict attacks before they happen. Even with this advantage, he knows he cannot afford a single mistake because the Emperor can defeat him instantly. The battle continues until Haruka runs out of magic and stamina, and the Emperor begins walking toward him. He believes this is the end, but notices the creature is not finishing him off. He realizes this monster feels different since he cannot sense any unaliving intent. He concludes that the only reason he is still alive is because the Emperor does not want to eliminate him. He makes one final attempt and rushes in from behind, but the Emperor draws its sword and points it at his neck. At that moment, Haruka realizes the miasma is controlling it. He then notices his staff is absorbing the miasma, so he keeps attacking while allowing the staff to draw it in until all of it is absorbed. Once the miasma disappears, the Emperor stops fighting. Haruka understands that it held back earlier because it wanted someone to end its suffering. The Emperor drops its weapon, but the miasma suddenly returns and begins to take control again. Haruka considers ending it, but instead hugs the creature because he cannot bring himself to destroy it. This action triggers his subjugate skill, even though he does not fully understand how it works. Somehow, it frees the Emperor from the miasma's control, so he asks if it is willing to work with him, but it stays silent at first, making him think it is upset about becoming his servant. Soon after, it shakes its head, and Haruka realizes it understands him. Using appraisal, he sees its level has reset to 1 and discovers its name is Angelica, which shocks him since he has unknowingly turned another female into his servant. He brushes it off since she is now just a skeletal being. They begin heading out of the dungeon and eventually reach the 100th floor, where Haruka notices stairs that might lead to the surface. However, the floor master appears and reveals itself as a level 100 living armor. Haruka thinks he stands no chance since he struggled against Angelica earlier. He tries to avoid fighting and uses earth magic to create an opening in the ceiling, planning to escape with air walk. When he looks up, he sees 2 level 99 minotaurs waiting above him. As panic sets in, a sudden explosion occurs. He soon realizes that Angelica has defeated all 3 enemies on her own. Afterward, she focuses on the armor dropped by the floor master, and Haruka understands that she wants to wear it. She puts the armor on, yet he quickly notices it's far too heavy for her small body and flat board. The armor suddenly reshapes itself to fit her perfectly. When he uses appraisal, he learns it's cursed, which clearly upsets her, and that reaction makes him realize she shares the same strict personality as Toka. Meanwhile, the others move down the dungeon stairs while worrying about Haruka since no one can find him. They eventually reach the 50th floor and come face to face with a massive monster. Oda identifies it as a Cyclops. Back at the Adventurers Guild, Marielle reports that something strange is happening in the dungeon, yet the guild master doubts her since the dungeon guard hasn't raised any concerns. After points out the guard is unreliable, so they should prepare anyway. When asked about Haruka's group, After explains they have vanished without a trace, while Marielle hopes her instincts are wrong. On the 98th floor, Haruka gives Angelica a cape to lift her spirits, but he soon senses a monster nearby. He uses appraisal and identifies a lich, recalling that only holy magic works against it. The lich fires a magic attack, but Haruka dodges it. He then remembers his staff can destroy dark creatures, so he taps the lich with it and defeats it instantly, making him realize how powerful the staff is. On the 97th floor, he runs into venom moths and understands their poison would unalive him on contact. He creates a fireball, drawing them in, then increases the flames and burns them all at once. By the time he reaches the 95th floor, he senses a strong presence. A living sword flies at him, and an appraisal shows it's level 100. It attacks relentlessly, forcing him to dodge while his counterattack misses due to its strange movements. The sword then summons smaller blades to overwhelm him, so he tells Angelica to step in. She charges forward and slices it clean in half, proving she remains incredibly strong despite her reduced level. Back on the 50th floor, the others struggle against the Cyclops as exhaustion sets in. The girls begin to lose hope, while Kakizaki, the leader of the Gym Bros, wonders what Haruka would do. Toka looks ready to give up, yet Kakizaki and Oda reveal they have a plan. The Cyclops attacks again, prompting Kakizaki to activate his acceleration skill and rush in while the girls support him with magic. Even then, the Cyclops lands a hit, making him realize he can't defeat it alone. He then reveals he has only been acting as bait, allowing Oda to fire a fully powered arrow straight through the Cyclops' eye and defeat it instantly. As everyone celebrates, Toka realizes they are working together because of Haruka's influence, which strengthens her resolve to find him. Meanwhile, Haruka and Angelica reach the 85th floor, but the ground suddenly begins to shake as a massive horde of monsters starts moving toward them. On the other side of town, a guard is relaxing while thinking about Haruka's group when he suddenly sees rats rushing out of the dungeon in fear. Curious, he looks inside and is shocked to see monsters spawning right at the entrance. He immediately runs to report this to the guild master, who realizes the deepest dungeon has begun releasing monsters into the outside world. All the while, the monsters march out of the dungeon in hundreds, and they are ready to fight. Back in town, everyone with the guild master is in panic mode as they realize what they'll do. They wonder whether Haruka's group is still alive after entering such a dangerous place. So the guild master pulls out an old document and explains that the dungeon is actually a living structure that keeps expanding downward. Once it reaches its limit, the monsters can no longer be contained and begin pouring out. He states that the only way to stop the disaster is to defeat the boss on the lowest floor, since doing so would make all the monsters disappear. An earthquake suddenly strikes, confirming the monsters have begun their advance, and he orders everyone to defend the town with their lives. Meanwhile, Haruka encounters a group of griffins and quickly uses paralysis poison on a fish before throwing it into the air. The griffins eat it, become immobilized, and he defeats them with ease. However, on floor 54 of the dungeon, Toka is leading the girls to find Haruka as fast as possible. At the same time, the boys get confronted by a pack of kobolds who want to use them to work up an appetite. Back in town, the adventurers manage to defeat the first wave of monsters, yet Hijack warns that this is only the beginning. The guild master believes Haruka's group might be capable of defeating the dungeon boss, so he suggests sending someone to inform them about the situation. Muriel is chosen, but she starts panicking because she doesn't want to go alone. Seeing this, the guild master understands that the mission is too difficult for a girl like Muriel, so he orders Ofter to be her escort into the dungeon. Ofter is a bit skeptical about this because he was gunning to get ready for the next counterattack. However, the guild master tells him not to worry, because he, Hijack, and the other will defend it no matter what happens. Since Hijack is also in on this, Ofter gives a final salute and prepares to leave for the dungeon with Muriel. At the same time, Haruka is in the first floor of the dungeon when, all of a sudden, he gets attacked by fish-like monsters. Seeing this, Angelica reacts fast to defend him by slashing the fish. After that, Haruka studies the fish moving in the water and notices others moving beneath the water. He identifies them as swordfish and realizes their sharp attacks could be fatal. Remembering how frozen fish behave, he uses ice magic to slow them down before freezing them completely with his packing skill. As he moves forward, the floor master appears and summons a massive tidal wave. Haruka responds by creating a surfboard with earth magic and rides the wave while avoiding attacks. He eventually defeats the monster and continues toward the surface. Along the way, he finds a ring that increases luck and a bracelet that removes curses. After defeating a necromancer on the 75th floor, he obtains an orb that grants mastery over life and death. Though he considers keeping the items, he realizes Angelica needs them more due to her curse. She hesitates, but accepts them after he insists. Soon after, she removes her helmet and reveals she has transformed into a human. Meanwhile, on the 54th floor, the students encounter a pack of werewolves during their search for Haruka. They manage to defeat them, but Toka realizes everyone is now extremely exhausted. Just then, they hear something approaching and prepare for a fight, yet it turns out to be Muriel and Ofter. They are told that Haruka is missing, but Toka remains confident that he will be fine because he always manages to survive somehow, no matter what. Meanwhile, Haruka arrives on the 74th floor and realizes it is filled with lava that makes the entire area feel unbearable. He moves forward carefully while noticing traps scattered everywhere, but the extreme heat begins draining him so badly that he thinks he might collapse before even dealing with them. Angelica points toward a corner, and he understands that it offers a safer spot to rest. He takes a moment to recover and notices wind flowing through a nearby opening. Deciding to stay there, he uses wind magic to create a gentle breeze that cools him down and helps restore his stamina. At the same time, Toka suddenly hears his voice and realizes it is coming from behind a wall. She calls out to him, and he understands they are near the hole he once fell through. She asks if he can climb back up, but he explains that it is not possible. When he asks what floor they are on, she tells him they are on the 54th floor, and he promises to meet her there. Muriel then reveals the situation with the monster stampede, explaining that the adventurers are already struggling to hold off the waves. Ofter adds that they encountered the second wave while heading toward the dungeon. She explains that the only way to stop the third wave is to defeat the dungeon boss. Haruka initially thinks she means Angelica and says he has already beaten her, which makes Oda question why the second wave appeared at all. Ofter asks directly whether he eliminated the boss, since that is the only way to stop the disaster. Haruka realizes what must be done, yet he cannot bring himself to defeat Angelica after learning she had been trapped in the dungeon for years. He admits he did not finish the boss, but declares that he will still find a way to save everyone. He tells Angelica that he needs her help to stop the stampede, and assures Toka that he will handle everything. She responds that she believes in him because he has always saved them before. The second wave slammed into the gate, prompting Hijack to open fire on the advancing monsters. Despite his efforts, the overwhelming number of enemies began to push him back. He admitted that everyone had reached their limit, but the guild master urged them not to give up, reminding them that Muriel had risked everything by entering the dungeon to save them. He encouraged them to hold on to hope and trust Haruka's group, as they were the town's last chance against the stampede. Inside the dungeon, Haruka informed the others that he was steadily making his way upward, while Muriel pleaded with him to hurry, knowing he was their only hope of preventing the town's destruction. On the 73rd floor, Haruka encountered a group of lizard-type monsters and quickly identified their weakness to cold. Using his magic, he froze them in place, allowing Angelica to eliminate the immobilized foes. Upon reaching the 70th floor, they were attacked by a swift two-headed dog. Recognizing its reliance on scent, Haruka threw a bottle of vinegar to disrupt its sense of smell, creating an opening for Angelica to finish it off. Afterward, they reviewed their loot, and Haruka fused whatever materials he could use, though he remained frustrated that he still hadn't obtained the pheromone ring. Angelica suggested he rest, but Haruka, aware of the time pressure, refused to slow down. On the 69th floor, they faced an owl capable of hypnotizing its opponents. Confident that his general health skill would protect him, Haruka was caught off guard when exhaustion prevented the skill from activating, causing him to collapse. When he awoke, he found Angelica carrying him and apologized for worrying her. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the dungeon, the others were struggling against a level 100 Sphinx. Kakizaki and Oda launched repeated attacks, but none were effective. After explained that the creature was essentially immortal, as its true role was to challenge adventurers with riddles rather than engage in combat. Realizing they were facing something beyond their ability to defeat, the group found themselves increasingly overwhelmed as the Sphinx continued its assault. Haruka reaches the 59th floor and thanks Angelica for helping him recover, yet he almost slips off a cliff when he realizes the ground can collapse at any moment. He suddenly senses a familiar presence, while the others lose hope against the Sphinx, knowing they cannot defeat it. Just as it prepares to unalive Toka, Haruka shows up in time and uses his gauntlets to cancel its physical immunity. He points out that the creature is nothing compared to Angelica since she is a dungeon boss, and she cleanly slices off its head. Toka gets excited to see him again, and says everyone has been waiting for his return, but she quickly asks about Angelica. Haruka is about to introduce her when the floor gives way, which makes Toka panic. He manages to regain balance and leaps back toward the group, explaining that he will not fall because he has learned new skills, yet the floor collapses again, and this time he is in serious danger. Toka grabs him before he drops and refuses to let go, and with the others' help, they pull him back to safety. The group praises her for the save, but Oda reminds them that it is too soon to relax, since the third wave is already moving toward the town. Muriel worries that the town will be wiped out if they do nothing, so Toka asks Haruka what he plans to do. He explains that Angelica is the key to stopping the stampede, and they use the warp gate to return to the surface and meet the guild master, but Muriel warns them that the third wave is already closing in. They soon spot a massive army of monsters, and the guild master realizes they are badly outnumbered with no real chance of winning. The ground begins to shake, which makes the civilians panic, yet the Lord of Onwe assures them that the adventurers will handle the threat. Despair spreads through the crowd as they believe the end is near, but Angelica steps forward and slams her sword into the ground, releasing a surge of power that spreads toward the monsters. Haruka explains that as the dungeon boss, she has the authority to eliminate them, and a bright flash follows as the entire army vanishes. Toka struggles to understand what just happened, so Haruka tells her that Angelica used her power to save them. Oda realizes that Angelica is the dungeon emperor, which makes everyone question whether she's truly a monster. Haruka reassures them that she isn't dangerous, and explains that she once saved his life. He goes on to clarify that although she has returned to level 1, she still retains enough authority to dominate other monsters, though her influence only works when she is near them. When asked what happened to the vanished monsters, Haruka explains that Angelica didn't destroy them, because she sent them back into the dungeon. With the threat gone, the town is declared safe, and relief quickly turns into celebration as people realize they can return to their normal lives. Later, Haruka lays out the items he collected in the dungeon, revealing that they are rare and up for sale. Excitement erupts, but the girls begin arguing over who gets what, leaving the boys too intimidated to intervene. Noticing this, Haruka discreetly gives the boys the items he had already set aside for them, earning their appreciation. While everyone is satisfied with their purchases, Haruka remains concerned about Angelica. She has chosen to stay in town, but he worries she may struggle to fit in due to her lack of social experience. Haruka is excited after earning a lot from selling his loot, and Toka thanks him since she finally gets the gear she wants. She asks him to introduce Angelica, and he reveals that she is the dungeon boss. Toka suspects he used the pheromone ring on her, but he explains he never found it and instead used his subjugate skill. This makes her uneasy, so she questions why he did it, yet he has no clear answer. She decides to question Angelica herself and pulls her away, while Haruka hopes she gets along with everyone. Angelica joins the girls in their room, and they ask her age. She says she is 17, which excites them since she is close to their age. Toka asks about her past, and Angelica explains she was trapped on the deepest floor of the dungeon until Haruka saved her using subjugate to break her curse. Wanting her to connect with everyone, Toka invites her to bathe with them. Angelica struggles to remove her armor, so the girls help her, assuming she still wants to stay clean despite her skeletal form. Once the armor comes off, they are stunned to see she is actually a beautiful girl hidden beneath it. That night, Haruka checks his stats and realizes he has reached level 18 and gained a new skill, although he cannot use it yet. He understands he is not strong enough to handle another disaster alone, so he decides he needs to grow stronger and considers returning to the woods. The next day, he asks Toka for permission to train there, and she agrees but tells him to be careful. When he asks Angelica to come along, she becomes uneasy since he is about to spend time alone with someone he barely understands. She stops them, yet cannot explain her concern and simply tells him to treat Angelica well. In the woods, Haruka tests his new shift skill to increase his speed, but he slips and falls off a cliff. He uses his other abilities to land safely and realizes he still needs practice. Angelica loses her footing as well, yet he catches her and notices she feels heavy for someone made of bones. At his house, Haruka prepares to bathe and jokes about Angelica joining him, then immediately says they cannot since she is still a girl. She suddenly enters the bathroom, and he fails to recognize her at first. Once he understands who she is, he becomes embarrassed and decides they need to talk. Since she cannot speak, Angelica explains through gestures what happened to her. They realize the dungeon emperor was originally lifeless, but the cursed armor restored her body while the bracelet removed its restriction. The necromancer's orb and the ring of fortune helped restore her life force, allowing her to return fully to human form. Haruka understands she has been helping him out of gratitude, yet he feels he may be taking away her freedom. He tells her she can choose her own path, but she becomes emotional, showing she does not want to be alone. He decides to remain by her side and shares stories about his journey, while she listens and begins to see that he is also someone who has lived in isolation. The next day, Haruka challenges Angelica to a sparring match because he wants to test his new skill and measure his progress. She accepts, and he notices she moves faster now that she is no longer bound by her curse. He believes his shift skill can close that gap, so he prepares himself. When she attacks, he uses shift to evade her strikes and realizes he is improving. Even so, he understands his level and stats remain low, yet his resolve to grow stronger does not change. He tries to counterattack, but she taps his head with ease, making him accept that he still cannot match her. He admits he has not mastered shift yet, and promises that one day he will surpass her. After training, they go fishing together, and Haruka decides to prepare a hot pot. Angelica does not know how to cut the fish, so he patiently shows her the process. Once the meal is ready, they sit down and eat. Haruka says he is full, but Angelica suddenly pulls him aside. She asks him to sit next to her and begins giving him a massage, although she misses all the proper spots. He pretends it helps, and she asks how else she can assist him. He leads her outside, where they quietly watch the night sky together. He pats her head and thanks her for spending time with him. She tries to speak, but no words come out, and he reassures her that he understands her effort to improve. The next day, they head toward town, but rain begins to fall. Haruka grabs her hand and urges her to move quickly so they do not get soaked. When they arrive, the girls greet them happily, yet they notice he is holding her hand and react with embarrassment. Some of them try to question Angelica about what happened, but Toka stops them and simply welcomes her back. After that, the boys ask Haruka if he accomplished what he set out to do, yet he brushes them off. Angelica approaches him, but he tells her not to worry and starts walking away. She asks him to wait and thanks him for everything he has done for her. He is surprised to hear her speak for the first time. She then joins the girls, and he feels relieved seeing her connect with others. He realizes that while everyone carries different struggles, they all share the same need for support. This thought strengthens his determination to grow stronger on his own, so he can protect his friends when they need him most. That's the end of today's video. If you stayed until now, comment down below pink plots. Give me plenty likes, and I'll post your favorite model. Subscribe to the channel if you want to see another recap like this. Peace.